Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again, and for the past few days I've been playing around with the new Guardian Ascendency, or the reworked Guardian Ascendency. I've held off on it for a while. A lot of people have been playing it. It's been fairly popular, I'd say, and I didn't really know what I should do with it, because it seems like you can do almost anything with it. It's pretty versatile, and in essence it gives you three of the main auras that you use to scale your damage: hatred, anger, and wrath, at level 27. It is based off of some procs, so as you can see with this power siphon wander in the top left hand corner, we are usually proccing our relics, I think they're called, pretty often, and it should have auras up almost always. On a fight like this, the feared, and some Ubers, they do sometimes die and you don't maximize your deeps, but for the most part you do have good uptime with those auras. And then on top of that, Guardian also has a bunch of other stuff like good regen or good block or an extra minion that helps take damage for you. So it's pretty well-rounded, versatile Ascendancy that I figured I could do just about anything with, and I ended up making a Wander. So I was going to do some Power Siphon, maybe some Kinetic Blast. In the end, it became just pure Power Siphon, and the actual goal for the build was to be a Fizz-based Wander so that I can utilize all three of the auras as effectively as possible. Since Hatred scales off some physical damage, I wanted to have a good big Fizz Wand and do a bunch of elemental damage in all three elements with that. In the end, this character just became pretty much a classic elemental wander using an Ellie wand and scaling some flat elemental damage. Now that is just purely because the Fizz support out there is pretty weak, and what you've got is wands that need to be damn near mirror tier to be competitive with Ellie wands. So ended up just making an Ellie wand but at like level 85 or something, and then committing to pure Ellie wanding. And aside from that, I just kind of made a Guardian that ended up being pretty thick and built around the idea being CI, but since I can't maintain Rage with Comb's Spirit as CI, it ended up being kind of a hybrid character. So I've got a little bit of life, capped Chaos Resist, 30% Chaos doesn't go through Energy Shield as well, and then just a bunch of Energy Shield. And since Guardian has some potential for thickness, I did actually build around block as well. So I'm almost block capped with my attack base, and then I'm pretty much block capped with my spell base. And that has made a pretty thick character. So for most content out there, can just about face tank it. And then, of course, there's some Ubers and stuff like that. But even for some of those, like Uber Cortex, things that can hit kind of quickly in succession as opposed to really hard, we can still kind of face tank as well, since I put some ES on block on my shield. But yeah, the character ended up being Power Siphon instead of Kinetic Blast in any way. So I leveled with some Kinetic Blast, but once I started to full commit to Power Siphon, I just realized this could be a Power Siphon character. And then for single target we use Barrage, for clear we use Pierce, I think, and then Vile Power Siphon also helps mass clear the screen. So without Vile Power Siphon, Kinetic Blast is strictly superior, but with Vile Power Siphon it means that pretty frequently, because it charges up rather quickly, pretty frequently you can run in and just clear the entire screen, and it's a pretty satisfying button to press. This is a very good character to farm just generic maps, as well as things like Legion, Breach, Strongboxes. Huge pile of mobs on the screen, press your Vile Power Siphon, and then also with the return proj, Vile Power Siphon seems to do a lot of damage on the way back. It feels to me like all of the projectiles on the return can overlap on a single target, but it's pretty, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, since not too many targets are very thick when you're Vile Power Siphoning, when you have a lot of enemies nearby. Either way, you can see the character's pretty thick, and wanding is actually usually pretty damn thin. So building a good Wander with good damage usually leaves you with a fairly thin character in my experience. Whereas this one, it's on a higher end of budget. Like I think I probably spent about 20 divines putting this thing together. Which in today's world really isn't that much, to be honest. But it's on the higher end of budget to get it to a point where it feels pretty good for damage and defense. But usually, if you're putting a good Wander together, you're kind of lacking on the defense aspect. But Guardian, it's mostly just because the Guardian can give you some good versatility in your defense. And it pushed me to build into some defensiveness, and it was fairly worth it. And I think you could do a lot with Guardian that could still make you very defensive as well as very offensive. So here's an Uber Maven. I ended up doing like 4 or 5 of these, and it's not the best character for it. I was expecting a bit more damage to be able to like global her, but it is what it is. It was just good enough and still do some gameplay. And you can see that big slow ass minion I'm summoning sometimes. So his main purpose is to just take some damage for me, because I haven't like built around him doing any damage. He helps you level with damage, but aside from that, he's essentially just a fortifier for this character. So that does make you quite a bit thicker once again. So at the end of the video, I'll give you a Uber Elder with Maven influence. But for now, let me go ahead and show you how I build the character. So here is the character level 95, Gachi-san, and that is just because of the like San sort of emote that is representative of this minion. So this is the Sentinel of Radiance you get at first lab if you want. He basically can carry leveling for you. He's pretty fucking slow, but his RF aura does like at that level kill things pretty quickly. So we do have Convocation on left click, so he always keeps up with us. But for the most part, 20% of damage from hits is taken from your Sentinel. So that means it's basically Fortify, as long as you remember to summon him and he stays alive. Because he's got a certain amount of health and a cast time, a mana cost, and you have to summon him. And he's got 20-second duration. So without speccing anything into him, he's something like that. And he's pretty useful for taking lots of extra damage, or for the leveling process. We then also have basically built around triple aura here, as I said. So summon Elemental Relic, 25% chance to trigger, and as you can see, they can sometimes die. They, you know, need some uptime with lots of attacks, but it's reliable enough to build around. It gives you an Anger, Wrath, and a Hatred at level 27, and it's not scaled by aura effect. So going heavily into like auras for your character isn't really gonna do much more in this regard. It's just if you want auras in any other way. And then it's got some good defensive shit too, so you can take this, or you can go all the way through here. The way I built my character, this didn't end up making any sense, so we also got lots of block. So with Convocation on left click, spell block is always up, and then just attack block always up. And then I took this for Berserk Sustain and Rage Sustain with Comb's Spirit, which is why I could not go CI. But yeah, if you just like run around with left click, Convocation, the spell block is always up, and then attacking, the attack block is always up too. So with a little bit of extra help on block, I've got 61 here, 74 there, and with a good energy shield or life pool, this type of block actually feels pretty fucking good. So I think I've built into block in recent times with much lower life values, and it hasn't felt great, but with the means of being able to take a hit behind that block and the means of recovery, it feels pretty good. So I've also got Ghost Reaver, and I can also leech instantly to some extent. So throughout some of the content, you'll see that my energy shield can bounce back up, but at the same time, I can't recharge because of this, and also Shav's Ring. So that's some of the basics around Guardian, and I think I could do a lot with this Ascendancy, like not just Wander, not just attacks, spells, all kinds of shit. It's pretty cool Ascendancy overall, I think, and you can make lots of things around it. So the angle for this one, like I said, I wanted to be Fizz-based to begin with, ended up being pure Ellie, and have a Tri-Ellie wand now. So I grabbed a Fractured base for 1 Divine, I think it was, used Essences until I got a good secondary thing. element, and then fixed suffixes with prefix lock, and then a veil, and happen to slam on accuracy. So that helps solve my accuracy as well. So it's going to be a hard one to replicate, but that's kind of what we're shooting for here. And then I wanted to build around the, of course, Crown of Eyes aspect, because you typically do get a lot of value out of that with a Wonder. And with that, I went all the way over to this side of the tree and grabbed an Elegant Hubris that can either have spell damage, projectile damage, or minion damage in this circle. So to show you what mine does first, you don't have to replicate it exactly, but I'll show you what mine does and then show you how to do it. So this one here, like specifically what it does for me is 80 spell damage, 80 spell damage. We've got 80 armor, 80 proj damage, some chaos resist, 40 multi, 80 spell damage, and I think that's it. And then also Supreme Ostentation, which ignores attribute requirements, so no longer do I need like dexterity and stuff for my build. So I've killed off all of my travel nodes as well. All of them? Yeah, I think all of them. In favor of global defense. So I think I've got something like 35 nodes that are 3% global defense, which in turn gives me a lot of armor and also energy shield. So that's where I get most of my ES scaling. And you can see with the determination, I've got a good amount of armor behind my energy shield as well. So what you're looking for, basically, like I said, some minion damage, some spell damage, or some attack damage. And there's a lot of nodes in this area that you can sort of work towards. So the best way to just kind of decide what you're doing is find Timeless Jewel. You want Elegant Hubris, and then in that area, so Ghost Dance. And I didn't use the filter nodes thing. Instead, I just actually picked the things I wanted. So you know, if you're just picking, let's say, crit multi, you search, and there's 5 crit multis, you check it, so you can double click this, you check it to see where these things are going to be, and see what's on offer and what is efficient to take and stuff like that. So if you've got like a good node over here, it's typically not really going to be worth 3 points, but if there's another good node over here, then you might want to do it. You might want to anoint one of these, but in general, I just looked at like a good handful of them before I decided what was the most efficient one to take. And like I said, copying mine isn't necessarily going to be the way forward. So we just picked a bunch of good things like minion damage, proj damage, spell damage being the most important, because Crown of Eyes gives us 150% of spell damage. So each spell damage node is worth 120 attack damage. And then build your little Timeless Jewel area around that. And in turn, yeah, this POB got about 10 to 15 million DPS, depending on what we tick and all that, with some really good thickness behind it. An amount of thickness my characters don't usually have. So that's kind of the passive tree. That's why I traveled all the way over here for this area, and also to pick up an extra power charge over here. If I had to build it again, I would probably actually just go this way and do it in this area over here, and then I could also anoint a max power charge and then have 7 power charges at the very least. But with a good Crown of Eyes, you could even have 8. And that might be just a better way of building. But that's for you guys to look into if you really feel like it. I've done lots of Elegant Hubris over here and don't really want to just constantly repeat that one as well. But without all that travel, it might just be a better situation. So what we've got is then Crown of Eyes, of course, and built some energy shield. So a bit of energy shield on boots, a really thick energy shield chest, so just dense fossil spam onto a good Var Regalia till some good stuff happens. And then my suffixes are crap, but prefix locked and veil, and that happened. Grabbed a minion attack speed ring that I just put an essence onto, which with this is providing most of our attack speed. So this is most of our attack speed. This is some of our minion damage and stuff. We then have a shield that I dense fossil spammed that's shaper influenced, and ideally you're just getting a bunch of energy shield, but the spell damage roll happens, so I let that happen. Otherwise, energy shield on block is pretty nice if you have a large pool of energy shield and also a lot of block. So I've been trying that out for one of the first times, and it's felt pretty thick. I have enjoyed it. And then this has been something that was difficult for me to choose from: my ring setup and my additional curse setup. So I did use a Dodries for most of this character, but recently I swapped into a Shav's ring and then picked up a ephemeral bond with a bit of extra block and additional curse. This thing was, cheap, no one cares about it. It does lessen our duration of power charges, and it means that I have to constantly re-ramp when I start attacking something, but it seemed worth it enough. We get a bit of extra damage from the lightning, we get crit multi, and also good resist, but it's also additional curse. It might still be better to just spec the curse, it might still be better to have a Dodries, it might still be better to have a different curse amulet. This one's pretty flexible, honestly. This is a bunch of energy shield, but you could also have a bunch of energy shield on amulet. I'll actually show you the other amulet I was using for a good while, because these are pretty good for this type of build too. A Great Wolf with crit multi and global defense, so that increases our armor, increases our energy shield, and it can go higher than this too. And then I was running a Dodries on my ring slot to still have that additional curse, because I have Sniper's Mark and Ellie weakness, but you could also spec into it, you could anoint it. I was tossing and turning about the decision, and I came up with this, but I'm still not sure it's fully worth doing. And then I woke orbed a belt together with Max ES and Energy Shield from Shaper, and then this is basically what happened, and it's a bunch of Energy Shield on a belt. So that's all the gear. The setup in the chest is, like I said, for mapping, usually using Pierce so that it's big AoE. It's Power Siphon, Inspiration, early damage with attacks, Return Proj, and Trinity, and then Barrage in place of Pierce when we go single target mode. Down here we have Precision on Arrogance, so that's on my life. We have Ellie Weakness, Self-Cast with Discipline, Casting Damage taken Molten Shell, Determination, Mark on Hit with Sniper's Mark, Convocation, Berserk. So we press Berserk pretty much whenever we want to do big damage, and it's good sustain, and it's a really nice button to be able to press with Comb Spirit. And then over here, faster attacks, shield charge, life gain on hit, inspiration, and Frostblank, Enfeeble, and Tempest Shield. Also using alt quality alt ailments with Secrets of Suffering. It's not huge value against like Uber bosses, but I've tried to at least get some so that it still works. Increased effect on non-ailment there, and my anoint, but I don't hit super hard just very often, so it's not gonna have max value from that. But aside from that, that's the tree, and that's the build. Don't know if there's anything else I need to say, really. It's going to be somewhat expensive to replicate a Wander exactly like this. I think you could do a life base as well. I think you could not travel as far, and those things may end up just being way cheaper, but Ellie Wands are pretty good, and Guardian, pretty good, and ultimately, pretty fun character, and fairly worth playing. With that, yeah, I think I'll just leave you with the Uber Elder Maven influenced kill from yesterday. Thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time.
Dissected. Smear across the ground. Resist the assault.
Man, that's unlucky. He's going into a ball phase just before actually phasing.
Resist the assault. Your flesh is so valuable. Resist the assault. Imagine my might.
Did I pop that pop? Fuck. Alright, well, we've got an area to pop the ball now.
Life is survival.
Ah. Oh no.
Grasp your mortality tightly. Strong and march. Mortal flesh is so fallible. Grasp your mortality tightly. Stop and out.
Oh no. They're all pretty thick against most things this fight has to offer. It's gonna drop some cringe ground. Ugh, did it? Yeah, it did. Whoa. Oh, this is bad. Need to attack to recover. Ah. FHC, ruthless, viable. Oh, please, please. No. How can it be so bad? What is that? What's bleed and feeble?